here's Chris Maher, host of FFM93 Live.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show here. A lot to talk about today. We got training camp starting. We have all this new stuff for the Flyers coming up. In the next handful of days, we'll also be previewing the game tomorrow, which is the first preseason game of the 2022-23 season, the first Flyers game since April 29th, and we'll be getting right back into it here tomorrow at Wells Fargo Center. Just a couple things kind of before we get into the stuff for the actual show, what's on the agenda. As for myself, as of right now, I have been I'm happy to announce that I've been credentialed for the 2022-23 Flyers season. So I'm very happy about that. Very grateful. Very thankful as well to everybody who obviously listens and tunes into the show, and obviously just the YouTube and all of that other stuff. As for myself, as of right now, I will be at the morning skate tomorrow, and also I will be at the game. So again, really happy about that. Really excited for this year. I mean, regardless of how the Flyers have been in these past handful of years, it's always fun to cover this stuff, and obviously everybody knows them. Obviously, everybody knows I'm pretty big on this stuff too. So, but again, let's get into it. So yesterday, I was at camp. I was not at camp today. Today was more scrimmages. And we actually saw hockey pucks today. But yes, yesterday there was no hockey pucks. I actually got a call about that too. So I want to play that now and then answer that question.
Hey Chris, it's Melroy. Just wanted to hear your thoughts about how Torts is running training camp so far. I guess it's only been one day, but still. Saw there was a tweet about how he hasn't used pucks yet, and wanted to hear what you think about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason, for calling in. Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah. So again, no pucks yesterday, and again, this is kind of going off of a training camp where everybody kind of knows, right? I mean, everything that's going on with Torts and how I guess you could say that the way that everybody kind of expected training camp to go, it really isn't anything surprising. I think it's more, the filling out process of Torts' camp for right now. We got to get some people in here. We only got one person in here so far. Oscar the Grouch. I'm so upset as a Flyers fan. Yeah, I'm sure it's tough. I mean, look, not too many people are really thrilled about the season, and I guess you could say just everything in general right now. It's been very, very tough, as I am attempting to put this out on social media right now at the same time. But again, not many people are really excited for the season, and I put out the tweet the other day or yesterday that blew up on essentially how would I describe it? I guess you could say that the lack of fans that haven't been going to games, or excuse me, not games, but camp. And I've said, for a while, like, there's been a lot of obviously negativity towards this Flyers team, but it's also been, obviously a lot of it is definitely warranted. I think it's tough because you're looking for a certain drive to want to go to the game, and not many people really have that right now for this Flyers team. It's tough, and kind of going off what Jason's question was camp and kind of how that can kind of be a little bit different with Torts is they're really, I don't think they're looking for a certain I guess you say the way that you do the drill or the way that they play or way that they skate, whatever. Like Torts said, like, Delorier looked ugly when he was doing, the skating yesterday, but he pushed through it. And that's kind of what it is right now. And that's kind of what the feeling out process kind of seems like for this Flyers team. I don't think Torts thinks it's going to be easy. I don't think any of us think it's going to be easy either. Because I think everybody kind of knows, it's it's unfortunate because of everything that has gone on with the front office and all that different stuff. It makes everybody not want to go, and it stinks. And I think Derek's comment here, and as for Jason too, I want to finish that up before I get into Derek real quick. But that comment from Jason and his question is more of, how's it been? I mean, we haven't really seen much yet. I mean, I wasn't at the scrimmages today, and I'll talk about that in a second. But Derek's comment here, we have no idea what our core is, and it sucks 100%. And Derek, dude, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. He said, I wouldn't try and fill the spots, evaluate the talent in-house, make additions when you know what your core is. I think that's fair. I mean, I think a lot of that is trying to make sure the right type of team is assembled. And if the Flyers can do that, then I think that they'll be okay. And I think that's what more of this camp is. I mean, I don't really see it as a I don't think it's more of like an X's and O's kind of thing. Obviously, the system and all that stuff, they want to get that fixed, and the guys obviously playing to that type of standard. But as for today and as for camp, look, yesterday wasn't much on ice. It was more off ice where we got more of the updates. No Ellis. It is so unfortunate with Ellis and how the season has gone. And how essentially his past season, I guess you could say, has gone. He's probably never going to play again. And it's very unfortunate because you have, again, the Flyers basically gave up peanuts for him. And, a lot of people say, oh, they'd make that trade again. They would do this, they would do whatever. I don't really know what I would do. I mean, it hasn't worked out for either team. I mean, it's very hard for me to believe that both of these teams, all three of these teams in that trade didn't know what was wrong with any of these guys. I mean, obviously Patrick isn't playing this year. Ellis isn't playing this year. I haven't heard anything on Cody Glass. I'd have to double check, but it's so unfortunate with how the Flyers season has gone, at least on our side of things, because when you look at the way that these people have I guess you could say, if you look at the way that people have kind of looked at this trade, and you've looked at the way that how the Flyers haven't been able to play Ellis, and you try to kind of separate it, it doesn't really make much sense on how they don't know what the injury is. I mean, it's very hard for me to believe that Ellis wasn't hurt or didn't have any of these other injuries. I mean, Fletcher said that muscle yesterday, and I had no idea what he was talking about. I thought it was a foreign language. And then I looked it up. It's like a long type of ligament in your back. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because it's very tough. But I know Bill Meltzer had a couple tweets on it, and Sam Morin dealt with that as well, when he was injured. But again, I mean, that's just the more unfortunate side of things. We're getting more people in here. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining. Hey, Chris Joel Farabee, play start of the season. He should be. It seems like, again, Joel was no contact. I was getting into that as well. I think Farabee with no contact is fine. He was really struggling yesterday during the skate, which is fair. I mean, he just had a major surgery, so I can't really say much about that. As for the other injuries, Ryan Fitzgerald with lower body injuries out 1 to 2 weeks. And obviously Couturier went for the second opinion. Again, it's very unfortunate with everything that has gone on in these past couple of weeks, because realistically the Flyers haven't they've addressed it. They've added some new people into the medical staff and to that kind of department. But again, it's been very tough with how the season has progressed, and now how training camp, we already get the really crappy news of what's going on. Ryan, what's up, man? How you doing? Thanks for joining in. Oh, Mr. Twister, I missed you, dude. I haven't seen you in here in a while. Knowing what we know, what do we hope for? What do I get excited about going into the season? Well, I think everybody's going to have their own kind of thing. I think everybody can kind of mutually agree that it's going to be a very tough year, and everybody's going to try to find their own thing. It is not a, like, to me, I'll mention this in the interview that I did with Yariv Wolok, who's really good, does a lot of cool Flyer stuff for Flyers Nitty Gritty, who I used to be a part of. and that interview will come up in a little bit. But again, you have a lot of different things that you can kind of pick apart of what you want to be excited for. You could pick a certain young player. You could pick all the young players. You could pick the defense. You could do the goaltending. You can do realistically whatever. But for me, I think it's the defense and the goaltending. I mean, if you're looking at, some people might say, more Travis Sanheim off of last year. And I did get a call about that as well, because there was a question about essentially Sanheim's contract negotiations, and that came in a little bit. So I'll play that in a second too. But I think everybody's going to kind of pick their own kind of thing of what they want to get excited for. And I'm going to play that call now as well, because I think it's a good conversation.
Hey, Chris, this is Mike. I wanted to ask you a question, but first, thanks for all your coverage from camp, and congratulations on being credentialed. I'm wondering about Travis Sanheim. I saw that they had, the preliminary talks about an extension. So I wondering what your thoughts on what that extension might look like, how much a year, and I'm hoping they do a big, long one, but I was wondering what you thought. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right, so I'm going to leave this up to you guys, and then I'll give my answer. What do you think Travis Sanheim's deal will come in at? Anybody in the chat, you can throw your specifications on Sanheim's deal, and you can do that. But for me, Mike, first of all, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Mike Taylor is fantastic. He does the YouTube with his kids. And I'll put a link in the description after I'm done this to check out Mike and his kids, because they do awesome stuff and they do great interviews. And it's so awesome. It honestly reminds me of when I was a kid. And again, Mike, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. But Sanheim, look, I think it's tough because, realistically, I think you have to see how this season goes. I agree. I know you said long, and I agree with that. I think they'll probably go 6 years. I think it'll be something close to what Provorov got. And I believe Provorov is 6'5" or 6'7". As of right now, I always forget, unfortunately. Provorov is 6'7", yeah. So he's right around that kind of ballpark. I think Sanheim should get at least 5 or 6 years. Again, everything that's going to go into these next handful of years is essentially building up for, I guess you could say, the end of the kind of Torts era too. Sanheim right now is 26. He's a UFA after this year, obviously. And as of right now, Sanheim's making $4.6 million. He's obviously going to get a raise. He had a really good, solid season last year. If he continues that, which I think he will, he's definitely going to get a raise. And at least, to me, if he has another solid season, or at least a little bit better than this past year, he's probably going to get $7 million. At least. Because look, I look at it like this. You sign Ristolainen and you get him at 5 years at 5.1. There's a lot of different things that people obviously will talk about with that deal, but I think that was pretty fair for Ristolainen at his age of 26. I think Sanheim is the better player. Obviously they're both partners. And again, I'm not trying to compare them. It's just that, recent contracts. But again, when you have a sort of, I guess you could say, a situation like this where you don't really have much cap, I think it's harder to kind of pinpoint what it could be. But again, I think for right now, I would give Sanheim 6 years at 7.2. That's what I would give him. Obviously I think people would probably may not want him getting more than Provorov or anything like that. He would be our highest paid defenseman at that point. But you also have to factor in a couple other things for that as well. So maybe I'm wrong, but Braun is a UFA next year. If they were to re-sign him, you have Ronnie Attard and Cam York coming off their entry-level deals. They'll be going they'll both be RFAs, and then not this Carter Hart actually has 2 more years left on his deal, so he has 1 more year after this season, and then he'll be an RFA. So you're going to have to, pay Carter Hart at some point, and then you have D'Angelo down the line, and all of that stuff. And that's just on the defense and goaltending side of things. You still have a couple other guys who are going to be free agents after this year as well. Noah Cates is coming off his ELC. He's probably going to get a little bit of a raise. So again, you have to see where the Flyers are going to be kind of cap wise. I think it's more of essentially the finding out the right type of number. And I think I don't think the number is going to be more of an issue. I think the term is probably going to be the issue, if I'm being honest with you, because I don't know how long Sanheim's going to want to sign. If you were to sign 6-year deal that's going up till he's about 32, that's pretty much all of his prime he's signed here. Maybe he wants to test the market. I'm not sure. But that's something I think we can consider. Ryan here says 3 years, $5 million. Jay Creed says 6 years at $6 million. So pretty close to what I said as well. Let's see. I just hope they're able to re-sign Sanheim, given the way Fletcher. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's kind of tough, and that's kind of what I'm hinting at, right? It's like you want to make sure you have enough cap space to kind of do all that, because you have other things in the works. I mean, it's not like it's just Sanheim. He's the big one, and he is the biggest UFA next year on the defense. That he outside of the whole like unrestricted free agent market on the defense side of things, he's the biggest name. Derek, I think, puts up an interesting question here. He says, if Sanheim extends and we don't trade Provorov, where does York play? He's probably too good for third pair right now, much less 2 years from now. Something has to give. That's very true. So again, I think all this stuff kind of is going to play into it. But the one thing I will say, it's good that they started talking. They've kind of extended those talks a little bit, it seems like, and it seems like they'll be able to kind of narrow that down soon, because again, he is the biggest thing next season. If you don't get Sanheim signed, it's a hole, but kind of going off of what Derek says, you kind of can fill it a little bit with York, but do you really want to do that? And again, a lot of things could kind of come into the way of that just being right there open for Cam York. As for it's kind of tough with again, that's why like these kind of questions are tough, and it's nothing against Mike. It's just these questions are tough because you can't really pinpoint it. But right now, I'd say for me, I think it's 6 years at 7.2, and I do think he deserves that raise. I mean, realistically, it's not that much of a raise, if I'm being honest with you. It really isn't. I'm not a huge math guy. You could ask my parents. I failed math in school. I'm absolutely brutal at it. But it's a little bit over. It's a $2.6 million raise. It's really not that much. Jeffrey says, Chris, with all the players you just mentioned coming up, UFAs, and all the cap problems, Flyers. Yeah, Jeffrey, I agree. It seems like they're going to have a tough time with a lot of this stuff. Now, again, cap friendly isn't like 100% right, because like they still have Brink on the Flyers roster, and like he's injured, and then you also have a couple of the other guys are still on LTIR, or excuse me, injured reserve. Couturier, which he's still on there. You have Ellis, but for the most part, and I believe they still have Ivan Fedotov. Yes, Ivan Fedotov is still on here per cap friendly. So that obviously is not the case, since he's spending a year in the Russian army military over there. So it seems like, it's not always 100% correct, but it's probably ballpark that the Flyers are, again, they are at 49 to 50 contracts. Like a lot of this stuff has to kind of go in, or at least be put into consideration for the next handful of years. And that's why some people probably look at the Ristolainen deal and they'll say, oh, well, that's probably part of it. And I think it is. I think the other thing is too, is that you took on Ellis, and to me, it's very hard to sit here and say that we didn't know anything about Ellis, because, I get it. There wasn't much of a understanding of what injuries he had, but still. Derek also asked a good question. Does Sanheim play the right side when they feel York is ready? They tried that a little bit last year. They also tried York at the right. They did try York at the right. I don't think he likes that. Obviously, he's a rookie, so he's pretty much going to play wherever. But they could. It's possible. I'm curious if it would work if they still wanted to do the Sanheim Risto pairing, because they were pretty comfortable playing Sanheim on the left and Risto on the right. And I think they like the right-handed defenseman on the right side. So that could be the case. I'm not too sure. As for training camp today, though, I want to get back to that a little bit. We had the scrimmage this morning. And a couple updates for tomorrow as well. So these are all tweets from Bill Meltzer. Bill tweeted earlier, Tortorella said the AHL coaching staff with Ian Laperriere as head coach would be behind the bench for the first 2 preseason games with NHL coaches at the balcony level. That's happened when AV was here as well. Then the assistants for the next 2 with Tortorella will be upstairs. The full NHL staff will coach the final 2. The Flyers have 6 preseason games. AHL staff will do the first 2, and it seems like they'll be the guys behind the bench. NHL coaches will be upstairs, probably with management. The assistants will do the next 2 games with Torts upstairs, and then the full NHL staff will do the last 2 games. I'm expecting more of a veteran presence in this type of training or preseason games, I should say. There were 2 rookie games last year. There was 2 rookie games this year. I think that's probably all you're going to see of rookies. It's going to be, the handful of guys that we think could make the team and at least make a splash. And then I think it's going to be more of your main guys. I think the Flyers and Torts and all of them are going to probably want more of a veteran type of presence, and also to get these guys ready and kind of going off of a little bit kind of towards the season, I guess, to kind of get them more into it. A couple other things. Here it is. This is from Bill as well. He said Tortorella said it's more conducive and excuse me. He said it's more conducive and the analyzing and the evaluating players when you're watching from upstairs, from behind the bench. You get focused on trying to win. So I guess Torts is, again, he said that a lot yesterday too. He's still trying to figure out the players. And I wanted to ask a couple questions if it was like, I had a couple questions in mind of like asking about Frost and things like that. But then I thought to myself, like, maybe it's not the right time because the guys yesterday didn't even have a hockey puck. So, it's kind of tough because he doesn't really know anybody yet. And he said that. So I think that's what they're trying to do. And I think it's a great point. I mean, from analyzing and evaluating upstairs, you're able to see more. And I think that's what he wants to do. I mean, I think those obviously the last 2 games, he'll have an idea of who the players are, what lineups he can kind of make. He said yesterday too, he's not really penciling in anyone at any spot right now for at least the regular season. Example, having Couturier 1C, Hayes 2C, that kind of thing. Hasn't really penciled in anybody, so we'll see what happens. Bill also tweeted neither Tortorella nor Laperriere will be making out the lineup for the first 2 exhibition games. Tortorella said that he left it up to Chuck Fletcher, Brent Flair, and the scouts to identify which players they want to look at in the first couple of games. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't be a veteran presence. I think some of it could change, and again, maybe there is more of that veteran type presence. But again, I think for the most part, these type of games are again the feeling out process. For the scrimmage today, the first one from this morning, Team White defeated Team Orange 6-0. Shots were 28-8. Team Orange was more of major league guys instead of the minor leaguers. Goals were scored by Konechny, Willman, Oelixel. Allison scored off a tip off a Zamula point shot, and either Anisimov or Konechny scored in a scramble at the front of the net. So either Konechny got 2 goals or just had 1 and an assist, and then Anisimov gets 1. But again, pretty dominating performance this morning. Again, a couple other things as well for the games coming up and the actual season and the preseason. If anybody was looking to get tickets for tomorrow, I do have a promo code for SeatGeek, which is why I have the little logo in the right-hand corner, or my right-hand side that probably is your left-hand side. I'm not too sure. But anyway, the code for SeatGeek is Flyers Fan Mania in all capital letters. It's just Flyers Fan Mania in all capital letters. It's FLYERSFANMANIA. I can't believe I just got that right. And again, that is $20 off for your order. That's over $50 or more. So if you use that, you can get it. Say if it's 2 tickets, $50 or so, bump it down to $30. So right down there, you can get $20 off for that if you do use SeatGeek for the games for the season, and that's good for all year. It's for the first purchase, so if you use it once, you won't be able to use it again. But again, it's over orders of $50. And just check too with SeatGeek, because some of the tickets, like if you go to, like, you have to find a seats that are promo code accessible. So it should say it if you're on the app or if you're on a computer or like a laptop looking at it. But you should be able to kind of be able to find the seats that are promo code accessible, so you can use that code and get yourself some money off. Derek here, he says, who the players are relative to a system in his gameplay is important, kind of like Florida finds random guys and makes them stars. They play what they need. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think a lot of, finding out, again, I kind of go back to finding out like who the human is and finding all of that stuff. I think that's very important for Torts. I think he really wants to find that out first. The veterans even are new to Torts, so I'm not even surprised that he wants to evaluate. Yeah, for sure. And not even just like veteran guys, but more of guys that have kind of been in the league for a while now. I think that's fair. So, yeah, so again, I thought it was, a lot of good questions here in the chat, but I want to get into the interview with Yariv Wolok from Flyers and Degree. It's a little longer, so I'm 47 minutes or so. So I will play that now. If I could find it. There we go. All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the show here. I have joined with a former colleague, and I guess we talk all the time, man. I can't even introduce you like I used to.
You can just say friend. You can just say friend. Everybody gets it.
Yeah. Yariv Wolok from Flyers and Gritty, good friend of mine. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. How you doing, dude?
Doing well, buddy. Thanks for the invite. It's good to. I had to push back because Vasily, my co-host, has COVID right now, which is fun. So we're gonna.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it sucks. So we're gonna record on Thursday. So this was perfect that I get to record with you before that, because I think there's a lot to vent about.
Yeah. Well, especially with the recent couple of days, and yesterday I was sitting in this exact same seat at this exact same desk around 4:45, 5-ish, and I'm sitting there, and I literally just finished my training camp video, and I'm reading through the names, and I go through all the invites and the PTOs and all that shit. And as I'm doing it, I then get the news of Sean Couturier is now with a herniated disc. Doesn't seem like he's going to be playing, and then we get 12 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks or however many long. It doesn't seem like we're going to be getting much of Sean Couturier this year, which, as everybody knows, has been the number one thing for this team to at least be somewhat competitive this season. I don't even really know if that's on the coaching staff's mind or really even the Flyers kind of management. I think it's more of just getting back to playing the right way. But it's terrible. It's literally
a kick in the dick.
Yeah,
it's a kick in the dick.
It is the worst news that we could have gotten. I mean, it's terrible. What were your initial thoughts? They can't be good.
Yeah, I mean, look, my initial thoughts were probably the same as yours. Gut punch immediately, and wind out of your sails type of thing. Because there was like somewhat of an excitement, especially after those rookie games, and it's like it's not even all of our prospects, and you saw enough young guys that like look better, and it's there's like still promise, and you're like, man, if we can get healthy, we'll at least be interesting. And then you lose your number one center who you already lost for majority of the year before.
Yeah.
And like that, there is no replacing a number one center in hockey. Mm-hmm. If you have two of them, that's a different story. And some teams have that. And yeah, you can elevate that player. And the Flyers have had that benefit in the past, or even guys who are like a 1B, Yeah. We don't have that anymore. Kevin Hayes is a good center. But he swings between 2 and 3. He can play on the first line with elite players as like a complimentary guy. But he's never hit above 55 points in the league. He's not a guy that you line up against the team's best players every night and expect to be on the winning side of that.
Yeah.
Without Couturier in the lineup, and, quite frankly, we don't really know what his recovery time will be or how he'll be afterwards or any of that stuff right now. So if you even assume the worst, it essentially is the biggest thing that can thwart your plans outside of, Carter Hart having a similar type of issue. And even that, I would say, maybe is not as difficult because you can replace that with good defense where you can't replace a top center. Like you can't drive your offense at a high enough level without a top center to make it happen. You can try what Columbus is doing, and I brought this up to you one-on-one that, they have really good wingers now, but, Jack Roslovic and Boone Jenner, like that's not a 1-2 punch that's going to get you far in the playoffs. So they have to probably figure that out. Or maybe Jack Roslovic is better than I thought, or, you know what I mean? Like those are good players, but they're not number one center. So like that's a big gap in their team. And I think they know that. Yeah. But you look at the Flyers now, that was a strength of ours.
Center depth. Yeah. It was huge. Especially, I mean, dude, just off topic a little bit, right after they traded Giroux, I think their face-off percentage went down 10% league-wide. I mean, it was
Coots and G are their two best face-off guys by far.
And the Flyers have always been a good team that have been able to develop guys into center. Michael Raffl, I think, is one of the best examples of it, from coming over as a winger and then.
That guy could just play. That guy play everywhere though. That's like an Umberger, Matt Reed.
Yeah, exactly. But they also were able to kind of form him into being able to take face-offs and be pretty good at them. But kind of going off that too, I've seen there's been a lot of people on Twitter that have brought up the time period of last August, probably around a month ago, this time last year. They had extended Couturier to the 8-year contract, 7.55, I believe, is the AAV without me checking. But everybody was happy. Everybody was excited about it. And now I think it's funny that everybody wants to kind of go off of it and be like, oh, well, they shouldn't have done that. And they shouldn't have done this. And everybody's kind of said this whole injury prone thing. And I went back and I did the digging on it. He's played, out of the last 5 seasons, they've played 371 regular season games. That's excluding the playoffs. And that's also with the COVID year and the shortened 1920 season. He's played 305 out of those 371. Majority of that is from this past season where he only played 29 of 82. So that is kind of, more of the whole injury prone kind of thing. I never understood that.
I will say this. When that argument is being made, people are excluding 2 big injuries that he had at a time period where they couldn't play more games as a team, which are in the playoffs. He had the torn MCL.
Yeah, I was getting there. Yeah,
and a 6-point game. And he had a shoulder with the Ovechkin hit. Yeah. Having said that, a lot of players get injured in the playoffs and play through it, and we don't hear about those injuries, and they don't miss time on paper. So it's not that I want to say that it doesn't count, but I agree with your overall sentiment. Signing that contract, you did not think of Sean Couturier as an injury-prone player. I think of the Flyers as cursed now. And if you look at all of it, even Nolan Patrick was not an injury-prone player. He had some minor injuries, nothing too horrific, nothing that would cancel his entire career.
Yeah.
Kevin Hayes, humongous injury. Giroux, ghost. It's like, it's getting outrageous. Ray Emery here.
Yeah.
People don't even remember that with the degenerative hip.
Just going off, it's like 17, 18. I mean, I just touching on that too. I mean, Couturier was injured, and then you had Brian Elliott had the core muscle. I think Wayne Simmons had 8 injuries that year in total, from groin to the ankle, a bunch of things. But again, kind of getting up to speed with this year. For you, Yariv, do you have any expectations for the team this year, or is it more of just kind of wait and see? Because that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I think it's best to play it safe and just have no expectation.
Look, I absolutely, before the Couturier thing, I was 100% wait and see mode, and I still am. I'm always in wait and see mode.
Yeah, me too.
Because if this team exceeds our expectations, I got to react to that. Like, I can't. People might say, "Oh, that's fucking impossible." But if Morgan Frost has a career year of some sort, or another guy takes a huge jump that we can't anticipate, I have to reanalyze now, right? To reassess if anybody surprises us, right? For the positive. But like I said before, my expectations now without a number one center is that we are not a playoff team, and it won't be a playoff team. If again, there are too many question marks at this point to expect that. They can always surprise us. Again, I still don't think the issues that we saw are talent related. I think the issues we saw are systems related, staff, organization, locker room problems. I think Torts is hinting at all of that, and I think it's quite clear. And I also think they were not conditioned well enough prior to this. And if you guys listen to my podcast and all of my last Jim Jackson interview, you can hear he goes back to AV and to Hackstall and goes, yeah, neither coach ever emphasized internally, and again, he would know more what's messaged internally. Like, there's not an emphasis on being the best in shape team in the league, which is ridiculous. So there's a lot of problems here. I want to see if those can get resolved, and then I can reassess the team. This team might be considerably better than we think. And Sean Couturier might not even be anything that stops us. And then we'll go, oh my God, can you imagine how good this team would be if we get Sean Couturier back? Yeah. That reality exists as well. But I don't blame anybody for not seeing that. You shouldn't even put your expectations there. You should be in wait and see always, but you should not expect this team to be a playoff team without Sean Couturier. Because, like I said, without a number one center, you can't fake it. You're going to lose most of your matchups. That's why the Flyers were so bad last year, is they couldn't have any winning matchups. Every night they would lose the battle. You even mentioned the faceoffs. So I feel as deflated as everybody else from the Couturier thing.
Yeah, no, it sucks. I mean, it was terrible. Because, and again, that was kind of the first thing that came to my mind. It's like, why do we have the worst luck? But it's like, again, luck is obviously a huge part of it. I mean, you need luck in everything, and especially in just talking hockey in general, right? I mean, winning the cup, so many things have to go right. So obviously that's huge. But just, I mean, again, it feels like we're cursed. I mean, and if you're not just talking Couturier, and I'm not even just talking about last season either, you go from every prospect. You mentioned Patrick. Okay, we mentioned injuries a little bit. You have Rupsov, you have Pascal LeBurge, you have Patrick, like I talked about. I mean, you have so many guys. Ratcliffe has dealt with injury.
Too many first-round picks missed, unacceptable.
Bobby Brink is injured. Jay O'Brien. Like, there have been so many guys, and I'm clearly missing a lot.
I'll say this, too, though. The Flyers, and this is a little bit of revisionist history, and it's really annoying to me. They have never had this much depth throughout their lineup. Never. In all the years that I watched the Flyers, there was one time they had it, and it was Richards and Carter, and they all went to the NHL the exact next year. This prospect pool is the deepest it has ever been. And that was Hextall. I don't care what anybody, it's without a doubt. The fact that you have so many guys in their early 20s that are competing for an NHL spot is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not just because we're bad. Look at some of those names.
Yeah.
It still doesn't mean our NHL team is in a great situation, but we have a lot of guys there who can compete. Yeah. And I think that at least is a positive.
Yeah. No, I mean, dude, like, hearing 71 players at camp, it'll be like 69 on ice, but 71 players at camp, that's a lot. I mean,
what do you think about the invites?
Well, I was getting there. I was going to ask.
Oh, sorry. Don't want to jump ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, 71 guys in general, and again, going off of the invites and the PTOs, Antoine Roussel is okay. Most of the, like, Pat Nagel played with the Phantoms last year. He's on an AHL deal. That's fine. Tyler Wall is he's a Rangers goaltending pick. He's 24. Tyler Wall, I think he's kind of done that kind of same thing. But again, going off of that, Anisimov, like you just mentioned, I'm fine with that. 6'4" center.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was a big fan of Anisimov, and he was obviously invited because he played for Torts a considerable amount of time.
He actually scored the most goals in his career, 22, with Torts.
Be honest with you, he's always been a good player. Man, it's hard to listen to the other podcasts, Everybody's so negative right now. Like, everybody sucks. It's like always the attitude. Like, I remember Derek Brassard sucked until he played for our team last year, right? And then he didn't suck so much. And it's like, I think the inviting the PTOs, and I mentioned it, I said it to you a while ago. I said on my podcast, I said it months ago. I was like, there should be as many PTO invites as possible They're not a guarantee of anything for the player whatsoever. A lot of times these guys don't even make the team they're trying out for. They'll actually get signed by a different team, which I don't know why nobody's including that. But you look at the situation with the Flyers and the amount of injuries that they had. They don't even know who's playing where. What is the harm? What if Simov is better than a lot of the options? What if we don't have to play Scott Lawton at center, even though we definitely do now? But you know what I'm saying? Like, what if we don't have to do certain things because somebody surprises up? It's worth taking a PTO. Yeah. Signing somebody who's not that good is not a good idea. But invites to PTO, I mean, like, if young players are upset, I don't.
It wasn't. I kind of expected it because, like, development camp, even though nobody really cared, I covered the whole thing. And you know how many camp invites they had at development camp? A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, a lot of the guys from NCAA couldn't come, right? So it's like,
right, and that too.
A lot of their prospects.
And again, you also had guys preparing for World Juniors, and Eddie and Emil Andre. Elliot Dinoyer was as well. You had other guys who were injured. Unfortunately, Brink was injured. He probably would have been at that development camp.
So, we're not even talking about Brink's injury anymore, and that's a huge one too.
No, it sucks. But again, kind of going off of camp, who are some guys that you're maybe trying to keep an eye on for training camp?
Isaac Ratcliffe, he's a big one for me. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think the contract situations are going to play a big role in who makes the team out of camp, and I think Isaac Ratcliffe should make it. I think if you pass through waivers, it'd be very dangerous.
I think for me, it's I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think for me it's Allison and Samuel Ursan.
Well, Ursan's interesting. I still see him as the second best. Well, I guess third best now behind Kolosov, but like the third best goalie prospect we have. So I'm interested in him for sure, and I want to see him like really take the mantle there in the AHL. That would be sick, because he's capable of doing it. And he was a better goalie than Sandstrom prior to his injuries. So yeah, to your point, that's a good one. What was the other guy you said? Sorry,
Allison.
Oh, Allison. Allison's like, I don't even see him as a prospect, dude. The only reason I see him not making the team at a camp is because of his contract and he's waiver exempt.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see him as a prospect either. It was just guys that I'm looking for camp.
True. Like, in my mind, he is a flyer. Like he was a flyer last year in my mind. We could have desperately used him all year. If he can be healthy, again, I think they'll pass him through waivers initially to start the year until they adjust their roster. I can't see him not playing in the NHL next. Like, why?
Yeah.
Who's better than him?
And I think him and Torts are going to get along too. So, I think the personalities will mix.
Here's my concern a little bit is that, like, this team is not going to win a Stanley Cup this year. Odds are, right? It's possible, but odds are it's not, right? They're not built for that right now, right? They're built to improve, right? They're built to improve.
It's hard to even argue it's possible, dude.
Yeah, exactly. but what I don't want to see, and I think we all agree, and McEwen's young, he's relatively young, so I don't feel as strongly about this, but I'm not that interested in seeing Patrick Brown fourth line center this year. We're not a playoff team. I'm interested in these positions being taken by guys that I think will be here long term. That is the point of this.
To me, it should be Tanner Legzinski.
Absolutely. He's the only, but again, same thing as Allison. I think he's a flyer. He's being dropped because their contract situation sucks. Yeah. That's my opinion. I don't know what's going to happen.
The problem is that they're at 49 to 50 contracts. And again, like, you can look
they
at
might not sign anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And, again, like, I usually try to take cap friendly with a grain of salt because not everything is updated on there right now. Like, they still have Brink on our roster and all that stuff. So our cap says it's negative. It definitely is very close. Or they may only be like a couple $100,000 over. I don't really know what I mean. I'm not a math guy. I failed math last semester, that whole kind of thing. But again, kind of going off of that, with news around the league, the Jets, they removed Blake Wheeler from the captaincy, and they've kind of gone with an open kind of mindset. And their kind of philosophy for that was there's a new change, there's a new coach, and we kind of want a new kind of look at the captaincy. And I don't know if the Flyers were going to go with that. Now, I don't know if the Couturier injury changes any of that.
100% it does.
He's
your top choice.
Again, right. But Torts has said, he's been kind of not like hush hush, but I mean, he said it, but he hasn't really said much about who he wants or anything like that. He said he doesn't really know if they're going to even name a captain yet, or it might be a couple weeks in the season. Who is your pick to be captain, or
It was Sean
I don't
Couturier.
have one? It would be Couturier. Okay.
It was Sean Couturier.
And if you didn't, could you see the Flyers kind of doing something similar to Winnipeg, that kind of like new coach, new identity kind of thing? Because they have talked about that. I mean, they talked about this new identity, this new kind of way that they want to get back to the way they want to play. Is that something you can think of or not?
Well, are you asking the new identity, or are you asking about a captain?
I think I'm more asking, would you be okay if they didn't have a captain and they went for a new kind of look?
I think not having a captain is a bad sign. I think it's a reality of where we're at. What I think Torts is trying to do, and again, I'm guessing, right? So I could be wrong, but what I think Torts is trying to do with the captaincy thing is, look, I'm not here. I don't know why these people have the letters on their chest. All I know is that the locker room has not been good, so I don't want to assume that you should wear the letter in your chest. I want you to earn it, and the way you earn it is not by me. And that's what everybody. So this is my opinion. I don't think people understand how to pick a captain. I think they think that the coach picks the captain. Coach does not pick the captain. The coach can recognize the captain. Yeah. That is a different story. The team picks the captain. It is very noticeable. Leaders lead by action or words or whatever it is. It's very obvious who the leader of the room is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It should be obvious to the coach, and he should have multiple people that qualify for that role. That's what he's looking for. Who is that person? Yeah. Do you know who I think that person is the most on this team? Joel Farabee. I've said it from the very beginning. If you really want my choice on who should be captain of this team, personality-wise, work ethic-wise, it's Joel Farabee, 100%. The problem is he's not ready. He just had a bunch of injuries, and Torts doesn't know him.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like the safe.
Seems like he's going to come back early, which is a good sign.
Yeah, but the safe pick is Coots because Coots is the engine of the team.
Yeah.
And everybody respects Coots.
I would argue Scott Lawton is a good pick.
Great assistant captain. Again, I like my captain being elite. If you look at majority of teams that did not have an elite captain,
always have to be the best player, though.
Correct, but if you look that they're not, you don't go very far. It's not often that your best player is not your captain and you're a great team.
Yeah.
It's really not. Like, I understand leadership-wise, that's great, but it's showing that you're missing the elite leadership, which is a problem because they can do both. They can say and do.
What about Atkinson?
I think he, again, assistant captain type of guy. Maybe he can be captain. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Hayes can be that guy. I'm open on any of them. I'm not going to shit on any of these guys. You know what I mean? That's silly.
And that's the thing.
Even JVR is a leader.
That. Yeah.
JVR is a good dude.
I'm not like them people that like, although this guy's terrible or whatever.
I know you're not.
I'm not like that. It's different where, when you have it's tough of a situation as last year was. I can't really blame anybody for kind of what, at least players wise. Kind of going off of that for Atkinson, he's mentioned the last handful of days in different interviews. I picked this up. He mentioned it in the Flyers press conference last week, and he also mentioned it in the NHL Vegas tour, the media Vegas tour. He said it on 32 Thoughts with Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman, and he mentioned the Islanders' fourth line. He's mentioned that twice now. He's talked about kind of not like the essentially like beating the piss out of everybody, but just like more of the grinding everybody down. And that's what especially we saw it firsthand in the bubble. They dominated us, that fourth line. They scored a handful of goals. Matt Martin was great. Unfortunately, we were on the losing side of it, but are you okay with that? Because I feel like some people are. I think I already know your answer, but
that's exactly how I want my fourth line center to play. Or my fourth line to play.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
They need that. And he's mentioned that, like, and kind of going off that too, it's like you have the Matt Martin on the Islanders, Reeves goes to the Rangers. We now have Nick Delorier. So it's kind of similar in that style where it's like they can skate. And
well, that's the key, is it though?
Yeah.
Is that the Matt Martin, Kyle Clutterbuck, and who was it? Cizikas? Yeah, they were good. They weren't bad players. And this is what I was hoping for this year. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I love Scott Lawton's game. I think he's a great player. I don't have interest in, he's in no way a negative in any aspect of what he brings. And I thought, like, man, if we were actually deep for 1 year, like, I'd rather have Isaac Ratcliffe get a chance at that left wing, or Noah Cates, and give one of those guys the opportunity to score and benefit from playing with like Hayes and Coots. And let's get some younger guys on the wings, and let's keep Scott Lawton in its center. And you put Lawton with Delorier and Allison. And you tell me that line will not drive teams fucking nuts?
Or even McEwen if you wanted.
McEwen is nowhere near as good as Allison. I think that needs to be stated. I like Zach McEwen.
No, he's not. No.
The talent level does not even come close to Wade Allison. If this team is healthy, Wade Allison is easily in the lineup over McEwen. And McEwen can't make the lineup if this team is healthy, but they're not healthy. So we'll see what happens. I like McEwen, but I don't want Delorier and McEwen on the line. Neither one of them is offensive. Neither one of them will benefit Scott Lawton. That is the problem with that mindset. It's one or the other in my mind. Yeah. Even if they do both this year, I get it. I'm not going to freak out, but it's not an optimal fourth line. It's half a fourth line. And now you're relying on Scott Lawton to drive all the offense. You can't put two guys, one tough guy, and make sure everybody's tough and grinds. And that's how you get a line like you did. Clutterbuck was not he was a banger, but he's not a tough guy like Matt Martin.
He get hit, but he can score. I mean, he's a scorer.
Clutterbuck is your Allison. Matt Martin is your Delorier. Cizikas is your Scott Lawton. And I can make the case Scott Lawton's much better than Casey Cizikas. So you can have an amazing fourth line.
Yeah. No, I think that's completely
not
fair.
Gonna happen, but
dude, I think it could. I mean, well,
not now.
Not now, no, but later in the year, I mean, if everything goes right and say Coots is at that 6 to 8 weeks, and that's kind of the thing with this open, as unfortunate as it is, it opens up a lot. I mean, it's not just like for the PTOs and everybody's like, Anisimov will make it now.
Disrupts everything.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well now what does more is Kevin Hayes your first line center?
I actually just thought of something. I just thought of something, and I know a lot of people are not gonna like it. Yeah. And I know nobody's brought it up so far because I'm the first one to bring it up ever. And we saw it last year and everybody complained about it as if it was shocking, even though it's so obvious. Joel Farabee will be tried at center again. There's almost no doubt in my mind now.
Yeah.
There's almost no doubt in my mind. I literally was thinking as you were talking, I was like, they're going to go back to it. If you can develop him in the center, that's the only thing you have where you can say, all right, he's a similar caliber to Sean Couturier. He actually might end up being better than Sean Couturier, at least offensively.
People actually could look at that early, like Tage Thompson in Buffalo.
Exactly.
It's like Tage Thompson in center, and then like holy shit, like it works out and he gets that extension.
Claude Giroux was a winger. He was drafted as a right winger.
Yeah.
He came to the Flyers as a winger. Yeah. They made him a center. I didn't say that Farabee could be a center. And again, if you guys want, go check my videos 3 years ago plus. I said this. I didn't say it by accident. I didn't say it about every young player. Joel Farabee is a mix of Simone Gagne and Jonathan Taves. That type of player, you can make a center. There would be some loss offensively because he has to play more defense. But if you don't have the option at all this year, I think that they won't resort to that first, especially because he's injured. But if Coots is out long term, I mean, they don't have anybody. Cutter Gauthier is the only guy you have in the system that can even come close to replacing Coots right now.
Yeah.
You don't have any other option. There's no other option in the system that can do it. Yeah. That is the biggest problem, my problem. This is where my dread is coming from. And the only way in my mind to fix it is to tank this year.
I think
right?
He's probably the second closest to that.
Yeah, but there is a chance he could be better than everybody thinks. He does not project anywhere. Sean Couturier was ranked first overall at one point in his draft. Yeah. This is the guy who everybody knew would be an elite player. Denoyer, if he makes it high, it'll be like a Kevin Hayes type. It'll be a middle 6'4" guy.
I think it'll be like a Lawton, but better, but not like
yeah. But Lawton's good. Lawton's a middle 6 player,
without more offensive. Yeah,
exactly.
He's still good defensively, and he has that bite to his game.
Totally. Yeah, I like Denoyer a lot. I think you're right about that. Yeah, Tyson Forrester, he's a guy we have who legit top line potential.
How is your defense kind of rolling out? Is
that's the only thing I'm confident about right now.
Me too. I mean,
the only thing I feel good about right now is
talking about that right before we started. Like to me, what did you say?
It's the only part of the team I feel good about right now is the defense.
Right. And usually, and it
And it's
honestly,
because of the coaching change.
yeah. And it's weird. Like now we have like,
And D'Angelo.
yeah. And I kind of feel like now we have like I feel like we're starting to get our bottom six like rounded out where it's like, okay, we have a solid
It's
kind
a,
of bottom six
it's a
now.
really
But
deep
now we're
team.
lacking on the top six when we used to be full top six,
Oh.
barely any bottom.
You talking
for,
about
like,
D's or you talking about forwards?
for forwards?
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. For having like your Giroux and Voracek and Simmons and all them guys, and then
No depth below
and then
that.
yeah, and then everything else was like, oh, Jordan Wheel, Roman Lubimov. It's like, dude, like, what are we doing here?
Well, I'll say this: you always want to have higher end talent and not enough depth versus the opposite.
Yeah, no, I know, and that's
look,
what separates the good teams in the bad.
And if Kutz's career is in jeopardy or what, again, I don't know.
Yeah,
but if I'm the Flyers, I'm going, okay, I'm not winning this year. I'm not winning next year. But I have a really deep draft, and I have some pieces here I can move. Like I know I need to replace Couturier, so that means if Morgan Frost is part of that package, so be it. If you know what I mean, like you start putting together some prospects, be like, we're not going to be that good anyway. So what do I have now that can help bring me a potential young Couturier? So like a better chance than just relying on Cutter Gauthier right now. Because if for some reason Cutter Gauthier doesn't work out or isn't a center, you have no options in the system now. So that is my biggest concern is you don't have it anymore. We need to fix that. And again, unless Morgan Frost shows up and blows everybody's tits off.
Well, this is his last chance. But you're fine.
You know, yes.
It's his last. I mean, dude, they signed him 1 year, $800K. It's like this is his last chance.
And he's gonna be. If not, he's gonna get either. If he's really bad, he's gonna walk. If he's decent, he'll get traded in a package for something else.
Yeah.
If he's really good, or good, even just good.
If Frost were to put up 50,
year, he's here.
If he 40. puts up 45, 50 points, I'm
15 goals, 30 assists. He stays on the team. 10 goals, like, 30 assists. He's on the team. 15 like goals, 20 assists. He's on the team.
Yeah, 12 goals, 30 assists.
Yeah, hit double like digits. 10, show
10
you can
12
produce.
Power play.
Show that you can show you are that player that you were at the end of the season. If you are that guy, you're staying. If you regress, you won't. You'll be traded or waived or whatever. Yeah. And that sucks. That's another failure, within the system. If that's the case.
And he has the tools. It's realistically, it's up to can they. I mean, he said at exit interviews last year he didn't even know essentially where he was playing, but obviously the new coach and new system will kind of change that because there's going to be I feel like they're going to want him to start at center and then they'll see how he does.
They don't have a choice, dude.
No, they don't.
They don't have any better center options.
Mm-mm.
And I want to make it very clear. The idea that they were going to shift him over to the left, okay, is media created. I do want to make that very clear. We have very rarely seen him on the left side. I'm not saying it doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying that it's stupid. What?
The left wing?
The left wing. I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm saying that it's media created because the Flyers have never been that interested in converting him over to the wing. They've been primarily interested in keeping him a center. And I argued with people, with specifically Russ Cohen and Bill Meltzer, about this when he first showed up at camp. And they're like, oh, he's going to move him over to the left wing so they can get him in the NHL. I said, no, they're not. They're going to say he's a center. We're going to develop a center because that is worth so much more to us than a winger. You can always put the guy on the wing like that. You don't need to develop a guy on the wing. You want to make sure like they invested a lot in him being an NHL center. If he can't be a top 9 forward in the league, I'm more patient. I just don't think the team is in a position to be patient anymore.
Yeah.
They have
no choice.
If Couturier is out, again, I don't know the situation. Sanfilippo has been right about injuries in the past where the Flyers have denied stuff. So I don't know. If he's severely injured, if his career is in jeopardy, you have no choice. Unless you get lucky. And you can wait for that luck. I'm fine with that. Yeah. Go through training camp. Wait, what's the point of reacting and flipping in? That's stupid. Yeah. But you have to have that conversation internally to be like, okay, we have to consider that our plan, whatever we put in place, is not going to work anyway. Because how do you do it without Couturier?
I
It's
don't
like
know.
losing G. It's like losing G when Hextall first took over.
Yeah. Well,
We wouldn't have been a playoff
it's
team any
very
season.
similar to last year in the sense of, okay, well, we started the year, we didn't have anybody, and then we had Couturier, lost him, and then we just had Giroux. Like that was it. And
What,
now we're
last
just
year?
last year, and now we
Yeah.
just have
Kevin
nobody.
Hayes.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
we have
just have
Kevin Hayes.
Hayes. Right, yeah. But I
Who
mean,
did
like
he
out of
looked strong at the end of last year, but he did
yeah.
play.
Mhm.
We should give
Look,
him credit for
and
that.
look, they were already banking on a lot. I've
That's
talked
my
about
point.
this. They were
Exactly.
I've said this for months. I mean, they were banking on
So much.
A, younger guys coming back and playing better, B, staying healthy, which clearly isn't we're already starting off with the wrong foot with that. You have Felix Sandstrom expecting him to come in and play what 20, 25, maybe even 30 games, say Carter Hart gets injured.
I think
Because every
Felix
year
Sandstrom
he's
can
dealt
do it.
with I think he can too, but I don't think I'm
He's
sold
older
on
than
that.
Hart. Yeah, I agree,
Yeah.
but he's older than Hart. He should be fine.
I
I
hope
think
so.
I don't think I don't think it's a good situation, but to think that Martin Jones is such a better situation. Jones and Sandstrom is a better situation than Grosnick and Sandstrom, and it's like considerably better. That I don't buy.
Mm-mm.
Like it would have been better if Fedotov was here and Sandstrom and Grosnick. Then you're kind of
And
like, okay,
Ersan.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're like, we get it.
Because with the
The Fedotov
Fedotov
thing will let you.
situation, then they probably don't invite the other two goalies, Nolan Meyer and Tyler Wall, and then they're kind of just like we have more of an internal battle at the goalie for the backup
Well,
spot.
look, my whole point is like, what was the conversation about Martin Jones coming onto this team last year?
That it wasn't
He's
that it,
already a
that
failure.
it probably wasn't the best backup decision, but we'll see how it works.
A very popular podcaster who I like. Okay, I'll leave his name out. And a very popular podcast. He literally was like, "This guy is not an NHL player. He is the worst goalie in the league. Does not belong here. The Flyers signed the worst goalie in the league. He was not. He was not the worst goalie. He wasn't even close. Actually, he was pretty good. Actually,
Yeah, he
the
was.
average. He was
The
He's
goaltending wasn't bad last year. It was
so
everything else around it.
That's my point. Is like, I'm not going to sit here and judge the goaltending right now.
Yeah.
Because if the team can't play in front of the goaltending, it doesn't matter who's in net.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It is irrelevant to me.
I haven't looked at Carter Hart's stats, I think, in the past 2 years.
Everything, because they don't matter.
Yeah.
Everything that I am focused on right now is I want to see this team play different.
Yeah.
Even if they lose. I'm not ready to blow anything up yet, though I will say if I have the inside and I know Coots is done, which I'm not going to assume that, but if I am told that my strategy changes, but I'm not tanking for the next 5 to 8 years. That is not necessary. I have enough young guys here, but I have assets I need to move out as early as possible so I can find something better and replace this center position. The one thing that you and I talked about, I doubt we talked about it on one last time I was here or on my podcast, but we both wanted Jack Eichel. And if you go back to where the Flyers invested their assets to make trades, I would have easily traded more to get Jack Eichel than what we did for all these other trades combined, and always build down the middle. Yep. That is why you trade for centerman. And like, it's not rocket science. And part of the reason the Flyers were so goddamn good is they always had strength down the middle my entire life. And it started with Eric Lindros, obviously, but there was always a top center here. Not one, but two. And now we have zero. And Kevin Hayes is a good center, but you can't make a case that he might be this year. Like, I do think there's more there. We've seen moments of that, but he's never proven that.
Yeah.
He's never proven it. He's proven it in bursts where you're like, man, Kevin Hayes is awesome. There were some games when he was here in that 1920 season.
Oh, he's great.
He was fantastic.
Yeah.
If he can be that way.
And dude, I think he can. I mean, I think a lot of it is going to be, I think a lot of it is going to be towards. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and I think the
shut
hope
him
is
down
they can maybe get Frost to be like that too. I mean, if they can do that, then that's fine.
Again. I agree with you. I have no disagreement. I think that's the thing. It's like we know what the problem is. It's just there's so many goddamn questions.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I'm just like, all right, well, let's see how it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and complain anymore. I'm not going to. Like,
doesn't help.
No, and it's awful, dude. It's like I feel like we've been talking about the same thing since July 13th, and nobody is just ending the conversation. It just keeps going every day. And it's like
Well,
we sit here and we keep like, oh, well, if they did this and this and that and the other
it's
thing, well,
eh,
if
we should
it
go
just gets
easy.
old.
But I do agree with that. But it's like it's not people's fault. It's like every day is chaos with this team, dude.
I know. No,
You're
and
like
I
you're
look,
nervous that your phone's
I'm
gonna
not
go off
I'm not like
for the negative, not the
disagreeing
positive.
with it, but it's just like, how long are we going to keep talking about it? Is kind of where I'm
Well,
at.
in fairness, they just keep happening. It's like what I
Right.
say. It's like it's one thing to if I poke you, but if I poke you over and over again, you're gonna want to kill me.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what's happening to this team. Is we were talking about it off camera too. Like I'm not happy with the Flyers business department either. People are not happy with them. The Flyers as an organization have not made great decisions. The team on the ice is not doing well. The injuries hurt. It's like, how much do you want to prod and poke at your fan base before they become agitated at
They already
every
are.
little thing?
They already are.
And you
Dude,
have to just
they
let it
can't
go,
even-
though. You
they
can't
can't
blame
even-
anybody.
They can't even make a tweet without there being a
I
crying
agree.
joke
I don't think it's
or
very nice how
anything.
people are treating Tony D'Angelo. I think that's excessive. The amount of hate that he got just for being in a video
Yeah.
just to
Stupid.
welcome to the team. But I understand why the team is getting a lot of feedback, a lot of negative feedback. It's not going to help. It's not going to
Yeah.
make the situation better. But I
My-
understand it and vocalize it. They should know they're doing a shitty job. I can't disagree with that.
My hope for this year is
Just don't harass people.
yeah.
No,
My-
I'm serious about
my-
that. Like, no, like people go too far online. But
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No. My hope for this year is the defense is at least better. I just want improvement. If it takes a while to see improvement, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for playoffs. I'm not looking for packed building. I'm not looking for, obviously that would be nice, but I don't think it's going to happen much.
Sure.
I'm really just looking for improvement in many areas. I mean, if Sandstrom can come in and play, and that's fine. Okay, I think the defense will hold up. If you can get somewhat of an improvement out of special teams, and if the offense is average, if they're average, if majority of those categories I mentioned are average, they'll be an average team. And
Which
I'd rather
would make them a bubble team.
yeah.
And
but
that's
then again, it's
fine.
like, yeah. But then
It's
again,
an
it's like,
improvement.
do you want that or do you want a chance at Bernard? So that's
I
kind of
mean,
where the
I'll be honest with you. Without a number one center, I want a chance at Bernard because I can't see us. I can always make the case. Look, when I look at the Flyers lineup, and I don't care if people agree with me or not, there are three pillars that every core must have to compete for a Stanley Cup. The Flyers have them: Couturier, Provorov, and Carter Hart. People cannot like that. I don't care. Those are the three pillars you need to be competitive at a high level.
I think you need a little more than that in each area. I think you need,
It is. That's not the point. The point is you cannot. That is a bare minimum.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
You are not getting anywhere without a starting goaltender, without a number
yes,
one,
yes,
and without
yes,
a
I
number
agree.
one center. You can
Yeah.
be an average
I
team.
think you need a. I mean, realistically,
No,
the only way that you really win in the league is down the middle and in net.
But you can compensate. We saw what the Avalanche did.
Right.
So that's what
I
I'm saying.
mean-
You don't have to have the best goalie in the league. I don't believe that. In fact, I argue if you invest too much in
Well,
your
no,
goaltender-
no, I wasn't saying best goalie in the league. I was just saying you need a legit goalie.
Oh, yeah. He has to be good.
Mhm.
It can't be Michael Leighton, no offense, Leighton. It can't be Grosnick at the end of the year.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
And even Jones at the end of his career, not good enough. You know? I don't maybe Brian Elliott, in his prime, good enough to win a championship. 100%. He's never a star goalie, always good enough to win a championship. Chris Osgood's another example of that. There have been
Jimmy
goalies,
Howard.
Felix Potvin. There are other goalies around or throughout time that have never been elite, but have always been good enough to win a championship.
Ryan Miller.
And Ryan Miller, John Van Beesbrook. No, Ryan Miller was elite. Ryan Miller was very
What a
good.
bad team, though.
Exactly. It's a different story.
Yeah,
If
that's
anything,
true.
that's like he's carrying.
Like
he's
Cam
like
Ward's another one where it's like he won when he
carry-
was younger, and
Exactly.
then never
He
really
was
got back
never
to
an
it.
elite goal.
Yeah.
He was never an elite goalie. He was a good goalie.
Jimmy Howard's
Um,
another one too.
Freddie Anderson.
Yeah.
Really good goalie. Not a superstar goalie. Really good goalie. You put him in the right position, he will flourish.
Yeah.
Right. That is what you need but and look, we can get through the core argument, but my point is that you had those boxes checked. You can find the other pieces around them to make you a legitimate contender.
Yeah.
Right. But without that C and without a replacement in there, this is what I talk about when people talk about trading Provorov, and replace him with who? Sanheim, and then replace Sanheim's replacement with who? Cam York, who just got to the NHL. Like, what are we talking about here? So this is what I'm saying. You can't replace these players. So how are we going to replace the one thing that kept us competitive? It's a bare minimum, because you're right. There's a core, and I've defined it to you. In my opinion, it's 3 defensemen. It is 7 forwards and 1 goalie. That you must have that to be a Stanley Cup team, and they need to be very good. They can't be like average players. You have to nail those positions to be a championship team, in my opinion. But without those, we don't have a 7. Mm-hmm. We definitely don't have 7 that we can definitively say. We can say, conservatively right now, and people might disagree with this, but conservatively, Hart, Provorov, Sanheim, okay. Coots is out. Let's assume he's out.
If Ellis was healthy, you could add him.
Right, but he's not, so you can't. Farabee. Again, with Ellis and Couturier, we're having a very different conversation, Chris. Yeah. And last year would have been very different. With Ellis, Coots, and Hayes, this team would not have been at the bottom of the league. They would have been fighting for a playoff spot to the very end, even if they
had
missed
to have known something when they traded for Ellis. There's no way it was just that.
Of course they did. Look at all of the players involved in that trade. Yeah. Cody Glass isn't playing in the NHL. Nolan Patrick is essentially, his career is most likely over. Again, with Ellis, career most likely over. And then it was Phil Myers, who was waived. He's the best asset involved in the entire trade. He's the one thing where I'm like, I still think we lost that trade. I don't care if people don't agree with me. We took on a 6.25. Dude, I hear people defending that trade. I don't know what you're talking about. We had a young defenseman who was signed, and we had a young center signed. Now we have a $6.25 million headache for what, 5 more years?
Yeah.
If Ryan Ellis comes back, I'll eat my words. Happy to. Prove me wrong, please. I beg you. Yeah. I like Ryan.
I do too. Yeah. I mean, he seems just as frustrated as we are. So
he's a fantastic player. This is exactly what this team needed. In fact, I'd argue if he was the healthy one, he would probably end up being our captain.
Yeah. Honestly, could be.
Him and Coots, that would have been the leaders of the team. Yeah. I do agree with your Lawton analysis, though. He's one of the only guys we got left. He's the new, probably Wayne Simmons to some degree.
Yeah.
He's the only remnant of those guys.
Yeah.
He learned from them. So it's
Yeah. All right, dude.
Sorry, I'm up. You can tell. I feel great about the team right now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. You're really pumped. All right, dude. Well, again, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Anything you're working on, or you guys got coming out you want to promote?
Yeah. If you guys haven't check out flyersnittygritty.com. You can follow me at YWOLOK on Twitter. I don't tweet that often, but I do a lot of video content. So you guys can definitely check out the YouTube channel, the Flyers Nitty Gritty YouTube channel. Do a weekly podcast with my co-host Vasily Giannarakos. We just had an Owen Tippett interview, and what's his name? Jim Jackson was just on. That's a good one. So I would check out those episodes. And thanks for having me on, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you all next week. All right. That was it. Thank you, Yariv, for coming on. We recorded that the other day. That was Tuesday night, so obviously we didn't know the Ellis news then. Unfortunately, we probably won't be seeing Ellis, and yes, he is right. We will have now a 6.25 headache for a while. Again, just wanted to reiterate the SeatGeek. If you're planning on buying tickets for either tomorrow's game or any of the games coming up, you can use code FLYERSFanMania, which is all capital letters, for $20 off. It's for orders that are over $50, and then it's also just look for the when you look at the seat, make sure it has the promo code accessibility, so you're able to use that on that order. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. We're getting more people in the chat and more things like that each week, so I'm again really glad about that. So again, thank you so much for all the support. Remember to check out the fan club, the little logo on the left hand side. Again, we got a lot of stuff coming for that as well. But again, seriously, thank you all for the support, and I'll see you all soon.